Hello, my name is Estrella Ruiz Otelo, a part of the PBSI 107 course, and today I am here to present my character analysis on Rapunzel, who is the main character in the movie Tangled. To start off, I wanted to give a little bit more context on who exactly is Rapunzel. Rapunzel is a princess that was kidnapped as an infant by Mother Gothel, who raises her in isolation in a hidden tower to hide her magical healing hair. She grows up sheltered from the outside world with limited social interaction and knowledge, believing Gothel is her real mother. Additionally, I wanted to give context on the overall movie of Tangled. Culturally, this story takes place in a fantasy kingdom named Corona that has medieval European influences, including monarchy, traditional generals, and strong community celebrations. The Kingdom of Corona values unity, family, and annual traditions like the Lantern Festival that can be seen in the movie that emphasizes connection and belonging, things Rapunzel is deprived of. Environmentally, Rapunzel is raised in complete physical isolation inside a hidden tower with no contact with society or peers besides Pascal, who is her pet chameleon that can be seen in the upper left corner, and Mother Gothel. Her environment is extremely controlled and restrictive, shaped by Mother Gothel's manipulation, limiting Rapunzel's freedom, independence, and overall real world experiences. Following that, I wanted to dive into Rapunzel's diagnosis. I decided to diagnose her with post traumatic stress disorder, otherwise known as PTSD. This can be seen most likely coming from her kidnapping as a baby and being raised in isolation by Mother Gotham. This type of environment creates psychological patterns that align with several PTSD symptoms. To clarify, PTSD is a disorder that develops after exposure to trauma and is characterized by symptoms such as intrusive memories, avoidance, and increased arousal. Although this movie is being presented in the Kingdom of Corona, where its culture is based on traditional values and monarchy that could add to her PTSD, as she is isolated, she isn't knowledgeable to any of this information. Following that, I wanted to also give a little bit of cultural recognition on PTSD. PTSD has been shown culturally playing an important role in how PTSD is experienced and expressed. In a study by Hinton and Luis Fernandez, it was found that cultural factors influence trauma related symptoms, including fear, memory, and identity after trauma. With this, cultural stigma surrounding PTSD, such as viewing mental illness as a sign of weakness or as something to be shamed about, has been shown to prevent individuals from seeking help and could worsen their symptoms. This can also be reflected in Rapunzel's behavior as she internalizes negative beliefs about herself and fears independence, showing both trauma and socially reinforced beliefs. In addition, I wanted to follow up with some evidence based on the diagnosis I decided to give her on PTSD, and I came up with two symptoms according to the American Psychiatric Association, one of them being persistently showing signs of negative emotional states. In Tangled, it is shown that Rapunzel shows feelings of guilt and shame, calling herself a bad daughter for leaving the tower. She goes saying in the movie that it is the best day ever to being the worst day ever as she feels she will be responsible for hurting Mother Gotham. Another symptom I saw according to the American Psychiatric Association was avoidance of stimuli connected to the event. Isolated from the outside world, Rapunzel avoids leaving the tower for years, although if she really wanted to, she could have left years ago. With that, Mother Gothel sings the song Mother Knows Best, presenting the outside world as a fearful environment. With both of these experiences and other similar experiences that she has gone throughout her life, she hesitates engaging in new environments due to fear, although she really desires it. With these symptoms being said and other symptoms being mentioned, there was also one missing symptom that I saw that Rapunzel didn't necessarily show, one of them being intrusive, distressing memories. As Rapunzel was being kidnapped as a baby, she can't necessarily recall her kidnapping or any events from her early childhood. Her distress mainly comes from learned beliefs and ongoing manipulation, not from reliving her past experiences. Research shows that intrusive memories are a central feature of PTSD and strongly are associated with its severity. As I talked about both her diagnosis and her evidence, I also wanted to talk about the treatment I would suggest for Rapunzel. I suggest that she go along with trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as TFCBT. I think this treatment is appropriate for Rapunzel because she demonstrates consistent negative emotional states such as guilt and avoidance behaviors related to leaving the tower. Research supports the effectiveness of TFCBT, as studies have shown it significantly reducing PTSD symptoms and improves emotional functioning. Yet there are some ethical cautions to be taken into account of, as this type of treatment must be delivered cautiously to avoid re-traumatization and consider cultural and situational factors. As I mentioned, cultural and situational factors, those are some barriers to be taken account in. Situationally, her extreme isolation and lack of access to mental health services while being confined in the tower could prevent any intervention overall. Culturally, the beliefs instilled by Mother Gothel, such as fear and distrust of the outside world, may discourage help seeking behaviors. With that, societally, stigma surrounding mental health, including the perception that psychological struggles indicate weakness, could further prevent her from seeking or accepting any type of treatment. Lastly, I wanted to dive a little bit into a broader perspective of the movie of Tangled overall. Although Tangled shows some accurate aspects of PTSD like avoidance and negative moods, there are several inaccurate aspects not shown like flashbacks and nightmares. With that, the severity and impairment aren't portrayed as complex as PTSD often involves more sleep problems, pervasive anxiety, hyperarousal, and other types of complications. Portrayals of disorders in films can often affect the way people view real life mental disorders and both negatively and positively. For example, someone watching Tangled could make us recognize avoidance as fear as trauma responses, but they may underestimate the complexity of PTSD, such as hyperarousal and intrusive memories. These are some of the references that I used to display my presentation, and I would also like to thank you for listening to my presentation.